This is probably the only show where I was like, no, I completely understand why everyone's upset with the finale. I just really like it too. The book is so dense. It was kind of hard to make like a season where it's not purely set up in dialogue. And I think that unfortunately is the second season for House of the Dragon.
Welcome back to the after show here on the Breakroom. It seems like Daemon got to use Alice Rivers' login to binge the entirety of Game of Thrones. Do you think he liked the finale? Was he okay with it?
Good shot.
I don't know. Hit that graphic. Dragon. That's right. Today we're talking about the finale of House of the Dragon, Season 2, The Queen Who Ever Was. What a play on words. Will Alicent keep her word? What exactly did Daemon see? And where the heck is old Otto? Who put him in a cage? We'll get into that and more. I'm Brandon Barrick, and joining me today, she ends every dispute here in the office with a little bit of mud wrestling. It's Jessica Clemons.
I would too. I'd be like,
That's why we keep the mud out back.
She was so violent, and I loved every part. I loved every part.
It was good stuff. Also joining us today, he keeps demanding more of those delicious little birds. It's Zach Huddleston.
Hey, if a knight's supposed to behave, make me a knight.
You are Ulf as hell. You are Ulf coded as hell.
I don't know if any of you watched the behind the scenes they put out after the episode, but the actor who played Ulf claimed that he ate 30 quail that day of the shoot.
Now, I have two thoughts on that. Quail are not big birds.
No, they're little birds.
They're tiny. So it's like, that's like probably 2 chicken wings per quail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing about quail and squab and all tiny, whatever, little birds, that's a lot of work.
There's a lot of
You
work.
got little bones, you got little pieces of meat.
He's not clearing the bones.
He's not.
He probably was like, yeah, I can do it. And then was like, after the 10th, he was like, why did I say that?
He was pretty proud because like they talked with all the actors, like because they were like, yeah, when you do these kind of eating scenes, you got to pick like berries or you got to pick something small. Jace had picked like duck, and they kept feeding him like slices of duck. But like Ulf was like, I'm eating quail all day. I'm eating for free today, and he ate like 30 quail.
I love it.
The actor is Ulf.
Represent your roots. Remember who you were. He's like, when I go home, I'm not gonna be eating anything.
Yeah.
So might as well. That's or maybe he was method acting and he was doing his actual character who's starving.
Yeah, because Hugh pointed out like we came from King's Landing and we haven't had meat in a while, so of course we'd be eating meat. But he's like, I felt bad about eating all this meat. But this guy over here is eating like 30 quail, and it's insane.
I was thinking immediately when I thought of it, I thought of that little French bird. That
The
you put
ortolan?
that you put the napkin over your
Little
head.
birds. I like you didn't even have a name for them.
Yeah.
Bring more of these little birds.
Little birds are good. As we do on this show every week, we're going to try to avoid book spoilers as much as possible. Anytime we talk about Fire and Blood, it'll be focused only on the changes that they made in the show so far. So we're not going to try and spoil anything that's coming up on the show in season 3 or beyond. Also, we want to remind you, don't forget to check out nerdriot.shop for fun House of the Dragon inspired merch. Zach here's wearing the Iron Throne. He won't sit in it, but he'll wear it.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
Again, I have a bandage on my wrist. Throw
Was it
your
the Iron Throne?
guess in the chat for how I inflicted an injury, what it is, and I'll reveal that at the end of the episode.
Is it an injury?
Was it from sitting on an actual Iron Throne that had a lot of Sharpies on it? We don't know.
Oh no.
Jessica's also got the Xavier shirt.
Yes,
Jessica's
and
right.
Brandon's wearing
I
a
got an old
throwback
school
Mephisto
shirt.
one. All of these can be purchased at nerdriot.shop.
Good way to support the channel. Check it out. Support all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network over at nerdriot.shop. Okay, before we get into our big questions from this episode, Jessica, kick us off with a little bit of a recap.
Yes. What I first wanted to say, you segue so quickly.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what happened to your hand. I'm gonna keep guessing and thinking what happened. I cut my finger this weekend on the mandel. Is it the mandel?
Oh,
the slicer.
Yeah.
I was watching Umbrella Academy, and I just was so close with the cucumber, and and it went into my nail. And this is my first day not wearing the bandage. But don't look too close at this finger because it's really gross.
My nightmare is taking a full slice off.
It didn't take the slice off, but it went in the middle of my nail and like cut through it. Ooh. So it's like still there. Yeah, it would not stop. And if I like hit it on an edge, it would start gushing again.
Delicious.
But this is the first day that I'm
More little birds.
Oh, sorry. Let's get into the recap. Sorry, I forced you to listen to my
fully
Saw
disgusted.
story. Okay, so this episode sends us hurtling around Westeros as we catch up with as many people as possible before season 2 comes to a close. I think maybe every single person we check in with.
Yeah, we did a quick check-in.
I think we do, cause we check in with every single kid. Masari is there. Even Lannister's there.
Yeah,
Both.
we see
We got the
all the armies
Riverlands,
marching.
yeah.
We saw the Starks for the first time since
Yeah,
the
we saw the start.
premiere.
They literally were like, remember every single person? Here you go. So Tywin Lannister successfully brokers a deal with the Triarchy and their fleet commander, who I'm gonna call Admiral Lokar. Is it Lokar? Lohar. But the full name is Sharako Lohar. But I'll call them Admiral Lohar. I will personally. So broker in exchange for their assistance, the pirates will get the stepstones, and Tywin has to sire an offspring with Lohar's wives. Do we know how many they have?
We never got an answer.
Yeah, he said
It's more than 2, right? Otherwise,
I like that he was down immediately. He didn't ask like, he didn't say like, I don't know. He was like, how many what?
He's like, I'm so tired.
I'm not wrestling.
I mean,
where are they?
I want to see the fan edit where it's like, how many wives? Curb Your Enthusiasm music. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is, right? Like,
Perfect.
At Dragonstone, instead of learning how to control their dragons, Ulf and Hugh hang out at the small council room. They're found out by Jace, who immediately dislikes Ulf for a million reasons that are actually okay.
Yeah.
Genuinely, how Ulf is acting in this place is criminal activity. And he tries to touch his dark hair, and it triggers him because remember how he feels about his dark hair. Later at dinner, Rhaenyra tells Ulf, Hugh, and Adam that they'll all become knights of the realm if they serve her well, which includes attacking Old Town and Lannisport with their dragons, killing innocent people. Jace and Rhaenyra see it as a necessary evil, while everyone seems hesitant on the fact, and Ulf just wants more of those little birds to eat. I almost fast-forwarded through it because I was getting embarrassed. I was like, you can't take small folk anywhere.
It was very embarrassing.
You literally, like, you can't take them anywhere. You get one opportunity.
It was cringe in like both directions.
Yeah.
It was cringe, obviously, how Ulf was behaving, but also then when the Highborn people are like, yeah, you know, gotta break some eggs if we want to make an omelet, and they're like, those could be me. I used to live in those cities, right? People like me are going to be the ones getting roasted, right? That was a wild scene. Alfred Broom finally makes his way to Harrenhal. Wild that Rhaenyra can get there in like 10 minutes on a dragon. But
I
by
forgot
land,
that it did take him like 2 episodes.
Yeah,
like 2 full episodes we didn't see him.
Yes, and I love, especially if you're watching with closed caption like I am, that wind whispering traitor when he walks out into the courtyard.
That's good.
Ooh! He betrays Rhaenyra the first chance he gets. And tells Daemon right away, "Hey man, I'll back you to be king." But our boy Strong was listening, man. Oh, MVP. Later at the end of this show, we're going to talk about MVPs of the season. He's in the running.
He is.
Mr. Strong.
He is.
Definitely in the running.
Alice Rivers, just dog. If you wake up in the middle of the night and Alice Rivers is sitting on the end of your bed, it's over. Okay, get out of Harrenhal. Get out of Harrenhal. Okay, what is
Well, that was like his most gentle wake up in a while. Like,
That is true, and that's probably why he answered so calmly, like, doesn't a witch ever sleep? And she's like, meet me outside.
He's like already dressed too. He's like, all right, I just go to sleep in my clothes.
At
now.
this point, yeah, because he wakes up in the middle of a meeting. Like,
Yes, and I also love that she's holding a candle until they get outside and she blows out the candle. And there's a little bit of like, maybe there's moonlight going on, but also there's a little bit of like, nah, I don't want you to see who that dude with horns is over there, right? There's a little bit of that. And then of course she invites him to the Godswood and he plugs in Lawnmower Man style into the Weirwood Matrix and sees the future and the past and the yada, 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 and mostly spoils the middle seasons of Game of Thrones. And we see a lot of flashes from Game of Thrones. We see the, of course, the White Walkers. First time we've seen them. We've heard mention of them in this show. The first time we've seen an actual White Walker. We get the back of Daenerys with her little baby hatchlings out when she's in Khal Drogo land. What's his country called?
I think Dragoland is actually.
Drago Land.
Did you say Count Drago?
Count Dragula Land.
And most importantly, he sees Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
Do you
Which
think
kinda confirms
Adult Rhaenyra.
the adult Rhaenyra,
With her head still attached.
Good for her. Do you think the writers for House of the Dragon were like, oh, the hoe's gonna love this when he says like winter is coming, and we see all those visions? Do you think they put that in there because they were like just for fan service?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some
yes.
like tying up of things and confirming of things. Like Ryan Condal said in the like after show thing, like they specifically wanted to connect events and like they kind of shore up this idea that Brendan Rivers is the three-eyed raven, something that was kind of hinted at in the books and in Game of Thrones, the show. They had different actors kind of portray like the three-eyed raven, but this is like shoring up. It is Brendan Rivers because he has that wine stain, who is a Targaryen that comes later, and he becomes a three-eyed raven, all that stuff. Yeah, they wanted to tie it all together. Okay. Yeah, and having like Daemon say winter is coming in High Valyrian is like, ooh, nerd factor, extreme. Like they're certainly paying some lip service there.
Well, and it's basically just catching him up to speed on what Rhaenyra already knows. Right?
And I really like this device that's not in the book. You know, obviously the whole prophecy's not in the book. But like, I like this for Daemon's character, and we could talk about that more later. Like what it means for him, what it means for Rhaenyra.
Hey,
very interesting stuff.
He used to be a closed fist.
Yeah.
Now he's an open hand. Slap! Okay, no, I don't.
It does sound like it was about to slap somebody.
Did he slap someone? I was thinking of the mud fight because it was like smacks and punches.
Yeah, there's some heavy hits
so much
in the
mud, so much
fight.
dirt.
Yeah. Daemon's a real sappy. And I mean that in the literal sense. Also vision, right? Like that weirwood tree is oozing.
This was cool too because every vision they've had so far, like the show creators have said, like they shot them just like the normal scenes because they didn't want you to know at first that you were in a vision, that it was like weird. But this vision specifically was very trippy and different, like him falling through the water and like all the things coming
and the dead bodies and the
the camera movements were very new and different. It's like they want you to know that this is capital V vision.
And I'm looking forward to Eric Voss's breakdown, which should be on the new Rockstars channel probably later today, because like there were a lot of images and quick images, and I'm like, is that Daemon? Is that a different Targaryen?
Yeah.
Whose boots are those walking through the bloody water? Like there was a lot of stuff happening in a short sequence. But I love the way it ends is you find out Helena has been tin can telephoning into Daemon's dream.
Keep going.
In real time.
Yeah.
In real time.
Real time.
How did she know that? Like, did she have the calendar invite? Like, hey, he's gonna be touching the tree now. Log on.
She had a notification when the weirwood tree goes live. She
said, "Oh, excuse me, let me go to my balcony."
Yes. Alice Rivers had done a community post.
Yeah.
We're going live in 10 minutes. I'm walking him out there. Log on. But like that really cool effect, and obviously there's been lots of hints that Helena has some powers. She's been dropping these kind of like prophetic lines throughout the series, though we've never seen direct evidence of that like we have here.
No.
Where like a sentence starts in Daemon's dream and ends with her saying it on the tower in King's Landing. Wild stuff. So like, she knows so much of what's going on. She's obviously tapped in some way. We're talking about this a little bit, like maybe not the exact same kind of magic that Alice Rivers is using.
Right.
But like, clearly there's some overlap in their magic, right? She's able to tap into the weirwood trees.
If it's like old world magic, and like these are the events that whatever's behind it is pushing, they want both of these sides to be working together to get to that end.
I bet it works not at all like this, but I was gonna say like the A24 movie Talk to Me, how it's at the end it's revealed, it's like here's a hand in the light that's ringing and you can touch it if you want. We don't know where it's really going. I feel like Helena was like, I need this opportunity because I am not getting on this fucking dragon.
Right.
I don't want to be queen. I don't want to do any of this shit. Someone come over here and please stop this family.
Well, and I love those two scenes back to back. This was probably my favorite part of the episode, right? Are like the different sides of the prophecy. Daemon sees the prophecy and it's like, well, okay, cool. It actually works out good for Targaryens in the end. I need to make sure Rhaenyra becomes queen. Helena talking to Daemon is like, this prophecy doesn't work out for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't, if I ride the dragon or not, you're gonna die no matter what. Lost in the God's eye, as she say, right? Cool, prophecies leave people out too, in addition to inspiring people. And we also know all of the Game of Thrones shows love to play with this idea of prophecy, of like people misinterpreting them. Mm-hmm. Prophecies themselves being kind of fungible and weird, and you think this is the prince who was promised, but it's not, and like you were doing all this stuff to try to lead to this and you were wrong. It was really cool.
Just angrily thinking you can defeat the fates. And that's where I think Aemond is right now. Aemond's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm still gonna do it. And it's like, okay, you really think you can disturb the prophecy? You think you can stop it? It's like, it's what happens.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, Daemon knows what he must do, and he's trying to recruit her to ride her dragon, Dreamfire, which is a big dragon. Not as big as Vhagar,
Yeah.
obviously.
Was it?
but
It was a hand-me-down, right?
Yeah, because Dreamfire was born. It said later, like Dreamfire was born during like Aegon, the first.
the Conqueror's
Yeah.
reign. So
it's a very old dragon.
But not bigger than Vermithor.
Probably.
The Vermithor is number 2 in the realm,
Vermithor's
right?
number
After
two.
Vhagar?
So
yeah.
maybe this one's like 3.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Big dragon, but of course, she's a cricket lady. She's not a fighter.
What'd you
You know
call
what I
her?
mean? Cricket lady.
We've only like in the
she's a
show.
bug girl, yeah.
The show we've only seen her fly it once when they were like flying back from a funeral. But like she doesn't like to
She's
fly.
a bug girl.
a
That
bug
poor
girl.
dragon. I feel bad for dragons that have like Viserys was like, yeah, I had a dragon. I just like hate dragons. So what am I gonna do with it? Like it just sits there.
Yeah.
It just exists.
I mean, his dragon died, right?
Right?
Yeah, he had
Or-
Valerian, which was one of the original.
Old. They just got
dragons.
his skull sitting there. His dragon was like, "You're not gonna ride me." Dead.
I guess I'll die.
Well,
Yeah. So Aemon's been putting pressure on her to ride Dreamfire, worrying Alicent, of course, who doesn't want any more of her kids to die. And when he tries to do it again, Helena reveals that she knows Aemon was the one who took Aegon down with Vhagar. She's seeing everything.
She said she saw it.
Yes, she saw it. Maybe through the dragon's eyes, maybe through a bird's eyes. We don't know. The show shows us a lot of random birds flying through the sky.
Yeah.
We don't know who's.
There's birds in the sky.
That's right. And she tells him to his face, Aegon will be king again, and he will die in the God's Eye, the lake next to Harrenhal. You would think, upon hearing that, somebody might avoid going to Harrenhal.
Yeah.
he's like, fuck you, sister.
Yeah. What do you
You're
know?
a
What do you know,
bug
bug girl?
But the one way to prove
You're
the
a
prophecy
bug
wrong
girl.
is to go there and not die, which is what he plans to do. Well, after that, we get a series of great scenes to wrap up the episode, with Daemon pledging loyalty to Rhaenyra in front of all of the Riverland troops at Harrenhal, and a very guilty Alfred
Dude,
Boone who's like, I guess I have to kneel
Has
now.
anybody ever less enthusiastically bent the knee? He's like looking around. He's like, just me.
Broom, like, he's got to
Also,
play a better game. Because
He does.
he's always like, hey, you know me. I'm a real G. I've always been Team Black. I would never go with those cowards, the Greens. You can count on me 100%. Let's betray Rhaenyra.
He's not smart.
Every scene he's in, he's like, you know me, I'd never betray my oath.
Yeah.
And then it's like, come on, man. Thou doth protest too much.
I'll
yeah.
never betray my oath. But
Well,
she's
now
acting
he's
like a
shown his
crazy
hand.
bitch.
He's shown his hand to Daemon, and now he's like, well, now
He's gonna die. I would have scattered
Yes.
so
Yeah.
fast. As soon as everyone started bending the knee, I'd be like, oh, I gotta skedaddle. I gotta run away.
Also, why didn't Daemon right there be like, you know, treat him like Corliss's brother? Shunk, you know what I
I
mean?
mean, they still need Broom's troops and all that stuff.
It's not one of my favorite parts, but I do love when he does show up and he
Yeah.
laughs immediately. Damon just laughs at him.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Hey,
what are you doing?
I didn't take you for a turncoat. Right? Like, what a line. What a line.
Yeah, that whole sequence was great too, because Daemon is so good at the like, you think he's gonna
Yeah,
betray you, and
like,
then he's just
betray.
like, just kidding, I'm on your side 100%. Rah rah, siskumba.
Yeah. A real Braveheart. The most Bravehearty
Yeah.
moment we've gotten in the season, right?
Yeah, good stuff. Alan finally lets Corlys have it. Really dresses him down on the docks, which was very nice. Very
Always
uncomfortable. He doesn't want any hands out from the father who ignored him his whole life. You know, bringing up that he saw Laenor walking around with brand new furs and stuff.
Dude, also,
Woo,
I
nasty.
hadn't even thought of that this entire season. He's like, literally, you're nice to me now.
Yeah.
After all your heirs died,
Yeah.
that's why you're nice. Not because you want to bring me in,
Yeah.
but because everybody else
Well,
is dead.
it's not even that he's being nice. He's like, you want acknowledgement for being nice to me? It's
Yeah,
like, no.
yeah.
Screw that. And of course, we get another reunion between Alicent and Rhaenyra in Dragonstone. Not in the books.
Not in the
Very
books.
fun, folks.
They did it twice now, not in the
They
books,
did it
right?
twice.
In both a home and away for both of them.
Ryan Condon was like, oh, you didn't like it the first time? Well, I'm doing it again, nerds. Get used to it.
I loved it. I loved it both
I loved it
times.
so
I loved
much.
it both times.
Yeah,
I love
they're
any time
always
they get to
great
chat.
scenes. And I think, like, you know, if you're like, wait, how are they doing this? And isn't this dangerous and whatever? It's like, sit down, nerds. It's letting two of the best actors
Yeah.
on the show just kill
It
it.
is dangerous, and that's the point of it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's dangerous. They're making the best two actors. And again, they're the two women that have actually all the women on the show mostly have common sense over the men. And I'm like, yeah, they're not going to kill each other before exiting the room. She's going to let them, like Alicent was like, you should get out of
These
here.
are the two
Why
people
you
who can
here?
stop this
yeah,
whole thing.
They would rather not. Could you imagine if it was like Aegon or Aemon coming to Daemon in Harrenhal?
Yes.
They're immediately getting sliced.
And really, you can make a good argument. This actually makes a lot more sense for Alicent than it made sense for Rhaenyra
Yeah,
to go
it
to
does.
King's Landing, where, like, literally she'd be killed on sight. Alicent is not even the queen anymore. right? Like, I guess they could kidnap her and hold her for ransom or something like that, but like she's out of power, right? Like she's in less danger going there than Rhaenyra was.
That's kind of like
Landing.
why she was like, I didn't show up in costume. I came to the front gate.
Yeah, she did. She was like, they let me in to the front.
Also,
Like, Alicent, good to see you. Welcome.
Also, did homeboy that took her camping? He's the one that brought her here.
Probably.
That guy gets all the bad
Richard
gigs.
Thorne, he was like, we're going where? Can we go back to the woods?
That poor man. That poor man.
Jesus. Alicent does come to apologize, sort of, and plead for her life. It looks like her little wilderness trip, really centered her. She's feeling crunchy now. She basically tells Rhaenyra that King's Landing is about to be exposed. She also throws out like kind of a Kristen Cole line where she's like, hey, let's you and I just run away. And Rhaenyra's like, what are you talking about? I can't
That
leave.
last line-
Just because you lost everything doesn't mean I can just leave.
That last line felt a little, for me, I was immediately like, oh, girl, corn. But then I was like, no, it kind of makes sense that she's becoming, I do think that it was so rushed, but it was so well done. And I think it's Olivia Cook's job of how quick it was that turn that she made of like, it was before she went to the forest. It was like, sure, the downfall of her recognizing her children are not going to change. And the city's just going to get only madder. She doesn't want this. She just wants to protect her, like the rest of the kids that she has left that have common sense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it was like a quick turn. It was so fast to do. And then now she's like, come with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, girl, I've been doing this since day one. I knew what my ending was going to be.
She got a taste of freedom when she never had. Like a quick interjection of the Let Her Cook segment. I love the kind of how this is built up where Alicent, I believe it was last episode, or maybe it was this episode, I had a line that was like, she took comfort in the structure of her life because she was kind of forced into this life, right? Sent away to King's Landing at a young age, forced by her dad to kind of like, was pimped out to Viserys, didn't enjoy it. Like, she says that she did like him, but like, even brings up he never like loved her as much as he loved Emma, his like first wife. Rhaenyra's mother, and she took comfort in all of that. She's like, if this is my life, I'm gonna do it the best I can. I'm gonna be the best little like queen I can, and then gets a taste of like, oh, it's nice to just go out to the woods and do whatever I want.
It's nice not to be
go,
famous.
and go wherever I want to go. And it's like, this is what I want now, and I want this for my daughter. I don't want to force her into this. And she's like, hey, Rhaenyra, you can have this too. And Rhaenyra's like, I cannot have this.
But it's also
absolutely not.
It's such a Targaryen way of being like, you're gonna die like a horrible person in history. And she's like, I don't care as long as I'm with my daughter and my grandkids.
And Rhaenyra being like, you know the rules. I gotta chop his head off in front of everybody.
I gotta kill him.
That's the rules.
I didn't like where she was immediately like a son for a son, and I was like, well, Daemon kind of killed a grandson, so and decapitated them.
Like that whole sequence. Yeah, Rhaenyra asks, what's gonna happen to Aegon. Alicent is trying to kind of bargain for his life at first and trying to be like, no, you don't. And then, when Rhaenyra drops that son for a son, you could feel her almost feel bad about it. And there's a great shot of when Alicent's mulling it over and not looking at Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra starts like breaking down.
Yeah, she's tearing up a little bit.
Emma Darcy, incredible.
They're both.
And then like catches it. But she knows the pain of losing, Rhaenyra knows the pain of losing her own son, and it's like, asking Alicent to do that, and
she doesn't even believe it. She just wants to punish this woman who's in front of her for like her goofing and putting them in this position.
Everyone's been goofing around, and now some kids got to.
I even love there are so many good lines in that sequence. Yeah. But I love Alicent says you were his chosen heir, and then his entire life or whatever, and a lot of that was because of how much you loved your mom. And Rhaenyra's like, oh, until the end, according to you, right?
And you fought it. I was getting a little irritated. I was like, come on, just let her have her peace. But I was like, no, I get it. This entire war is because you fought. You could have said early on at the beginning what you're saying right now, and none of this would have been a thing. But now it is.
There's this other great moment, and I think it's over Rhaenyra's shoulder, so I don't even think you see Emma Darcy's face or anything like that. But she just says, "Why are you here?" And throws up a little hand.
Why are you?
Dude, just the hand was so nice.
We'll go. Just go there.
What are you doing here?
Why are you here?
What's all this about?
Why are you here? I'm in my dressing gown.
I got woken up.
You woke me up for this?
Also, kudos to our Queen's Guard that learned to knock really good before coming in. He was like, you're about to enter the room.
Walk in.
I see nothing. Hands. Corners.
Yes,
Thank
chef.
you walking. Thank you walking.
Thank you walking. So yeah, we have this like great, again, not in the book, but I like this little moment, good. And Alicent realizes like she can try and bargain for Aegon's life, but it's not good. And she basically is like, well, she doesn't say the words, but she's pretty much like, you can come to King's Landing, you can have Aegon, you can cut his head off. I'm chill.
Well, and also, isn't it in that scenario in Alicent's brain, what happens to Aemon?
Well, I think she realizes Aemon will probably
she-
also die, and I think she's fine with that too.
But didn't she also mention? Oh, wait, are you talking about how she mentioned already that Aemon was going to head out to this place with Sir Christian
Yeah.
Cole? And are you saying like what's going to happen to Aemon when he comes back to see his brother?
Well, yeah,
dead?
or like, what is it? Is Alicent basically like, cool? The boys are gonna die. At least my daughter will live.
I think Alicent, she hates her kid. She hates her sons equally, her two sons equally. Remember in season 1 when she basically told Aegon, she got him jerking off in the window, like, "Hey, I hate your guts." She slapped him, and she's like, "I don't love you, really." She's I think she's felt bad for Aegon in these days because he's been crying out for his mom.
Yeah.
He's been weak, and his brother tried to kill him. And I think she does feel a little bit bad. She's totally written off Aemon at this point. I think she's like, he's gone, whatever. He's done.
Especially that.
But I think she feels like maybe Aegon is savable, but she realizes no. And I also think she doesn't realize how far along Aegon is. I think Larys and Orwell have been hiding it from Alicent too.
Yeah.
Because she says he's in a darkness of despair and pain and blah, blah. He is all that, but he's also talking pretty fluently now.
He's doing great.
getting better.
And I don't think she knows that much. And when she kind of walked in on Orwell earlier to be like, hey, I need to like sneak into Dragonstone, Orwell was kind of like covering up some stuff, and I was like, I don't know.
The way that he talked to Orwell it was the only reason and comfort I have now that he won't die so soon.
Yeah.
Like if he does die, because I'm always nervous. I'm like, he's helping too many people because he has to, and someone's just gonna kill him eventually. But Aegon being like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
For all your work.
You're a good man.
Can I get a little
you're a
rum?
good man.
Can
I said,
get a
oh,
little
man.
rum?
I said,
spike
thank
this.
God.
Spike this poultice. Also, can I talk to you more about my dick?
Yeah. Can we cut off a good dick and put it on? Can we do that?
He said,
What
piss
kind of-
dribbles down my neck.
Do you got a magic tea that can de-sausage my dick?
Sir, I'm trying to change the subject to a lighter tone. I have no cock. I said, okay. Well, you did a lot with it in your youth. If it makes you feel better, you did honestly too much.
You
with
got
it.
kids? You did fine.
Yeah. How many kids? A lot of bastard kids too. I'm sure. Like you're fine.
Well, we end the season on a montage readying the pieces for a war that's to come in season 3. We see the dragon of Prince Darren. Prince Darren, assume on that dragon, uncast. We don't know who it is.
Again, I wish we got a close up. I was like, is that Timothy Chalamet? You know what I mean? Like,
On that topic, Sarah Hatch Jordan asking fan casting for Prince Darren next season.
well, it's gonna be some really talented
British boy.
20-year-old British actor that none of
we
us have ever
don't know.
seen
It's
before.
gonna be someone that's been doing the limelight of Britain's high stage play theater that we have not been heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though it would be incredible. I mean, in the sense of Game of Thrones would do this every once in a while where Pedro Pascal was not who he is now, and he was not even as famous as he was after Game of Thrones. But he had been a working actor, and he'd been known when he got cast in the original Game of Thrones. Same with, they would bring in even killer, Ciarán Hinds to be the guy above the wall who was leading all the wildlings or whatever. They'd bring in known actors for bit parts. You could see that role going to maybe a little bit more of a known actor because it might be a cool one to play.
I think they do that for the older actors. Casting Sean Bean was we know Sean Bean, and you gave him the Stark role. That's insane. Yeah. And same with the dad of Cersei and them. I was like, oh yeah, this is that actor that's been in everything for ages. But for young people, it's always some crazy great actor, unless it's fucking David Tennant's son. David Tennant's son. I love him.
Is he a working actor?
No, yeah, he's in House of the Dragon. He's the one jerking off the window.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, that's David Tennant's son?
Yeah.
Tom.
Did you not know that?
No,
they
I
kind of
didn't know
look
that.
alike. If you look at them next to each other. Also, at a Comic-Con, he held a sign when he was doing signings for the House of the Dragon. He was like, "This is my son!" And it was David Tennant with his son. He was so proud. He was so proud of him jerking out the window.
So proud.
I would be so mad
Method.
if that one scene, that's what my son gets.
Method. I think they'll get someone from TikTok.
Oh, maybe.
We also see Tessarion, the Blue Queen. That's Darren's dragon flying with the high towers. Looks like a little lizard. Very tiny little dragon.
Very blue,
cute.
very blue.
We see the Greybeards marching from the north, coming across the twins, thanks to Jace and his good work. We see Otto in a cell, mysterious captors.
You guys keep saying a cage, and it is absolutely a prison cell. It's not like
It's kind of cagey.
He's not
It's
sitting
tight.
in a room that's a cage.
He
He's
doesn't
in a
have depth.
prison.
He doesn't got a TV.
What if it wasn't a cell at all? It was just a garden lattice wall, And it's just oh, I'm
What if he's just stuck beyond a fence?
No, I like they gave you as one or both of you have already pointed out. They give you no context in that you don't see who's guarding him or what. We don't know. Is he on a ship? Is he in a dungeon? Is he like being on a cart, being carried across? You know what I mean? Like we don't know what part of the realm he's in. You made a great point, Brandon. Is he still in King's Landing?
Is he still in
Yeah, I
King's
thought
Landing?
Evan brought that up.
No,
Yeah.
I'm taking it from Evan.
No, don't take from Evan. Evan did mention he might have still been at King's Landing, which would have been so messed up. As soon as he left, they just yanked his ass back.
Well, we'll get more into that too.
Yeah, we'll get that.
That's coming up.
We also see, of course, Laris and Aegon running away in the little raven cart. Adorable. Aegon looks pissed about it. Rhaena meets the dragon in the Vale, which in the book is called Sheep Stealer.
Finally!
We see it. It's cute. It's adorable.
I love
it's pink.
that
It's black.
dragon.
I love it. It's
love
wild
It was a cool looking dragon, but good God, how many?
Took a while to get there. It took a while to get there.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of our main players are getting ready for season 2. It's going to be a great battle. Multiple battles.
Question.
And that's where the season ends.
Are the when I don't know if she does get the dragon, but I assume she does, because how are you gonna make this girl do that the entire episode and not get that dragon? But she takes it back to she takes it back. Are the other dragons gonna be mean to it? Because that's a street dragon, and it's dirty as hell, and it's also just eating things randomly.
Here's what I'll
recklessly.
say. It's different from the book in that Rhaena does not go after this dragon. This dragon exists in the book, and a different character interacts with this dragon. It seems like they have removed that character from the show, and they've kind of changed Rhaena's story. So all this Rhaena stuff is uncharted territory, as far as we know. Now, this dragon has no saddle on it.
Yeah.
We know Daenerys rode bareback. That was like her thing. She never had like a saddle for her dragon, Drogar. But this dragon does not have a saddle. It's never been ridden. It doesn't know High Valyrian, as far as we know. So.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
So we'll see how this all happens. This will be a natural.
And then the dragon's gonna get so close to her, it's just gonna be like, "Can I come upstairs as well? They're beating me up." And she's gonna be like, "No,
the
you gotta
dragon's
stay
gonna
here."
go to dinner with the other dragons and be like, "More birds, not little birds. It'll be regular size. More sheep." And they're like, "We don't eat sheep." And he's like, "I eat sheep."
We rushed past in the at Heron Hall, Caraxes.
Caraxes pigs.
eats pork. Dog, he ain't keeping it kosher.
No.
Okay, he likes that cloven hoof.
They
You
were
know
like,
what I mean?
"Sorry, all we have is pigs for the dragon." And he was like, "Actually, he loves pigs. Good on you."
He's like,
Turns out, my boy loves pigs.
Also,
I
yeah.
like pig.
Have you had in the chat? Have you had sheep? You take pig every day, dog.
A nice lamb. roast, but yeah,
but
you
not
take pig.
lamb.
Yeah.
A fully adult mutton. Yuck.
and the sheep, and that's the thing, is like they're so cats that it's like as soon as they get a nibble of something else that's more enjoyable, they're gonna be like, "I'm not gonna eat that. I'm not going back. I'm not going back to Mount Mix.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this right
Yeah,
here."
no more dry food for me.
No more dry
I mean
food.
moist forever. Yeah.
Pigs are gonna. Also, pigs. This is the logisticals for the later in the season. I think they produce quicker. Can you make more pigs than you can sheep?
and they might fatten up faster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pigs
yeah,
are
yeah.
good.
If you're a pig farmer or a sheep farmer in the chat, let us know.
I mean, you don't get
Who
the
reproduces
You don't get
faster?
the wool, but friggin' Caraxes doesn't care about the wool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pigs
And
will
also-
bulk up faster.
And yeah, you can feed just the dead bodies to the pigs.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, the pigs will eat anything.
Yeah, they'll eat anything.
I saw that in Hannibal.
We talking Hannibal now? Hey, before we continue, here's Zach from the past to tell you about one of our sponsors for today.
Hey, Zach here to tell you about one of our sponsors today, Raid Shadow Legends. We've been playing Raid for a few years now, and we're not alone. Raid is an awesome mobile RPG that has over 4 million users and over 250 million downloads. It has over 800 playable champions and 16 factions to choose from, with over 30 bosses to take down and literally over 1 million playable builds, so you'll never get bored. It's got monthly content updates and is fully cross-platform, so you can play with your friends or family without worrying about being trapped in whatever walled garden you're in. Click the link in the description below to get started with Raid and see why it's so highly rated in the App Store. You'll immediately get a huge starter pack with an epic champion, Tyrell, from the High Elves faction. He's got nice pointy ears. Many players consider Tyrell to be the very best epic that Raid Shadow Legends has to offer, with his arsenal of high-powered debuffs suited for all occasions. And you'll get another starter pack after reaching level 25 that includes an epic Rector Drath. She's one of the strongest support epics that you'll definitely need in your collection. Come find us and join Clan New Rockstars. We'll see you in Raid. Mama.
Now, Zach,
I'm a dragon, baby.
Zach, did that version of you from the past have an injury on their wrist?
They did not. This is a fresh injury.
Okay.
Throw in the
That's how
chat.
we
What do you
know.
think? What do you think this is? How did I get it?
This is like Eric versus Eric all over again, and we're like, oh, the only
it's
way
the
we
only way you
can
can
separate
tell.
is this.
Zach killed his twin.
That's right.
Zach, do you have some news about some shoes?
Also, yeah, the fine folks at the shoe company Merrill reached out they did a collab with House of the Dragon. They have 3 shoes, each inspired by different dragons on the show. I should have looked it up, but like this one even has like a cool.
That's
like,
probably Caraxi size.
yeah,
The
Caraxes.
Dragworm.
This model, and then this one, it's also kind of Hightower green. So I imagine this might be Vagar. Maybe it's inspired
little
by. It's got the
Vagars.
green and the gold. And then this one is what's Rhaenyra's dragon? Cyrax, probably. These are really cool looking shoes. They're actually not even for sale yet. We're gonna throw a link in the chat though. The fine folks at Merrill are sending us some of these shoes to wear too, which I'm very excited about. They're cool looking, and like this is like a fancy brand of running, hiking, walking shoes. So if you want to, I think you can get on a wait list or a mailing list or something like that. Again, these shoes aren't even for sale yet. But when they do come up for sale, you can cop one of these. We were talking about the level of, this is a fun color.
I like the red ones because you
like
can
the red
see
ones?
the scales from the dragon.
I
think you
that's
can
a fun
tell.
detail. Oh yeah, there's
And
a
there are
little bit of
different
that.
types of scales too.
Yeah, and even the pattern here is kind of like
Yeah, you got actual scales.
this is cool, and like this is a swaggy color.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm a little normie. I'm a little square.
You can do it.
but this would up my game pretty.
I have to
significantly.
keep red and black so you can't find the blood for me curb stomping people.
Well, check a link in the description if you want to sign up for the shoes or get some for yourself.
Yes.
They're pretty heavy. They're pretty good for them.
these
Yeah,
are
be
good.
the pride of King's Landing in your Merrill House of the Dragon shoes. Before we get into our big questions, any favorite moments from the episode anyone would like to highlight?
Oh, God, so
I
many.
personally, I love that scene between Alicent and Rhaenyra again. It's just good, and like, not in the book, but again, the book is, history told through like word of mouth and like different perspectives, and like the point of the show is to say what actually happened, which I very much enjoy. And I really like a line in that conversation they had where Rhaenyra was like, history is gonna paint you as the villain, which I think is kind of a meta commentary on how the books are very one-dimensional with all the characters,
100%.
and really paint Alicent as a villain. The show is kind of painted Alicent as a villain too. It's hard to like the Greens.
I love
but
it.
It's a very like Wicked-esque moment, right? Where it's like, hey, we're gonna write our own history here, but we in this room know what actually happened.
What I think is really interesting, what I love and how I read that was I was like, all you care about is your history and legacy.
Yeah.
What happens if you took that away? Because I'm literally like,
Alicent's
that
living
shows,
in the moment.
Alicent's living here now. She was also like, she was pimped out by her father, brought here to like just work for you. You have always been a princess.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really like the celebrity versus the small folk kind of mentality of like, history's gonna remember you as this, and it's like, I don't care. I'd rather be on an unmarked grave. I'd rather be all this as long as I can keep my family safe.
Alicent went to Europe once and now has an accent, dude.
Well,
She's like, have you ever floated
That's a great point.
in a lake before?
And she's like, also, I live in a city where everybody hates me. My kids, except for my daughter, all hate me.
They call me the Fish Queen.
Nobody respects me. Literally, I can't go out the door without sneaking out.
Yeah.
I'm the richest woman in town. I should have power, but literally, I can't do anything without people screaming at me that they hate my guts. Like, my life sucks, right? Yeah.
Also, being called a fish queen is nice in most drag culture.
Hey, yo!
I was like, being the fish queen,
Also,
that's a good name.
I
That's
mean,
a good drag name, honestly.
The
Yeah. Fish queen.
seafood slander on this show.
Oh.
I get it that it's like when you've only had fish to eat for so long, maybe you get tired of it. But like, damn, it's like when you read about
They're
it.
not
like,
deep sea fishing. This would be like asking you to eat seafood from the LA River. You know what I mean? You don't get to go out.
They got an ocean.
It's an ocean.
There's
got
a
an
blockade.
ocean.
They don't get to go out that far.
I saw Adam and Alan all on the coastline acting like I can just.
That's right.
They don't have a blockade where they
I
are.
can that's what I'm saying.
This
Go
is
over there.
this is like when you read about like in like colonial America, like they would feed lobster to dogs because it was like and oysters were like peasant food, right? I feel like that's the zone that King's Landing's in right now, where they're not appreciating the fine sashimi that they get to eat on a daily basis.
Zach's like,
you
did
know?
you cut it very thin though?
They're
Did
throwing
you
all
put a
that
little
shit
sea salt
into the
on it?
bay. It's making the fish gross.
I think that scene is also my. Oh, sorry to change subject. I think that scene is also my favorite scene. But I think this overall in the episode, I was like, my new favorite character is Admiral Lohar. I'm obsessed with her. She is. I also just love when you're bringing a big bitch into Game of Thrones. I'm like, when Brianna Tarth showed up, I was like,
Right.
this is my favorite character. And this woman does not give a fuck. She's like, I'm not gonna let a skinny, puny ass man command my fleet unless you wrestle me in this mud. I loved her, and just that line between Larys and Aegon was just so funny to me about the sausage that It took me.
It was great. I mean, it was just it's a fun moment of like comedy in the show.
It was
that's surprising.
There's a lot of comedic moments. It's usually with Daemon and Harrenhal.
I laugh a lot watching the show because it's just like the cuts people have on people. Just great.
And I want to say we're 40 minutes into the show.
Oh, so sorry.
I didn't love this finale. I think structurally, I don't like that it was just a big tease for next season, and I'm gonna have to wait 2 years to see next season. I feel like both the last episode with all the Dragon Seed stuff and the mid-season kind of point where
the Battle of Rook's Rest.
Yes, where Rhaena died and all of that. Rhaenys, sorry. This feels like a letdown and a pure tease, and I wish this had been the penultimate episode and we would have gotten some wrapping up, a finish of one of these storylines. And I know this is a show that we want multiple seasons of, it's gonna go on, but this felt like just such a cliffhanger-y, and not even a cliffhanger, just like next season on.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I was gonna say the book is so dense, and I'm not trying to give. I'm like, everybody's allowed to have an opinion about this, and I understand.
Sure.
And this is probably the only show where I was like, no, I completely understand why everyone's upset with the finale. I just really like it too. But the book is so dense. It was kind of hard to make like a season where it's not purely set up in dialogue, and I think that unfortunately is the second season for House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
and it'll go down in history. If they get 10 seasons, we will always remember the second season is just like, oh, if you need exposition on everything before it starts, that's what the second season is.
There's a lot of placing of characters that needs to happen. It happened a lot in Game of Thrones, and it's happened here.
Yes.
What season of that is like in Game of Thrones, like this season?
Well, I mean, even the entire arc of Game of Thrones is like, when is Daenerys going to get to Westeros, right? True. It took her 7 seasons to get there.
That was me with Arya, and I was like, I'm tired of watching this person pretend to get ready.
When you have a bunch of storylines, when you have a lot of moving pieces, inevitably, we had one scene with Kristen Cole in this entire episode, right?
Exactly.
Like, literally 2 seconds with Otto Hightower and no words, like you end up
1 second with the daughter finding the dragon.
Yes, right. So I get that. I guess just like when the meta arcs of this season we did get some big developments. The Dragon Seed thing is a big development. Aegon replaced by Aemond, that's a big development. But like the entire Daemon Rhaenyra storyline,
it was
felt like, okay, I knew this is where we were going to get to, even as somebody who's not read the books, but just like, this is going to happen. And like every episode we see more, tripping out, like just how slow they played the Daemon, come to Jesus. Was like, that could have been 2 episodes and not 6. That's maybe my only, and I love this show. I think like for me, the dialogue on this show, the acting on this show, the beauty of this show, like there's nothing better on TV. I just think for me, the pacing and some of the plotting, I just would have liked it a little different. I would have liked it a little bit more.
And I think the writers heard everyone's cries, especially about like, I think I was the only person that really loved Daemon and Harrenhal. I thought it was so funny. I was like, this is great for me. I was like, I could watch an entire episode of Daemon and Harrenhal, but everyone was like, it is slow and it's forever. And I was like, I get that. I completely get that. And I think the writers are going to be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have extended that arc as long as we did with him and Rhaenyra, because it was like, out of everything, that was the least surprising thing. It's going to end with them together.
Season 1 was 10 episodes, and they had added on kind of the young versions of them. It was a late addition to that show. I imagine that, the writers and creators of the show wanted to do more in this season, and I'm sure it was a budgetary thing. The dragons are very expensive, and we got a lot of like daytime dragon action, which was great. And this show, again, beautiful practical sets, tons of extras. Like they do a lot. They spend a lot of money on this show. I bet it was a budget thing where they were like, we can only do a little bit. Also, they had to shoot this show during the strike. This show was allowed to shoot because it had different contracts that were established before.
Also, England is a little different.
England was a little different. But like, I bet it did limit what they had, what they were going to do, and they're like, we can only do this.
And I hope, fingers crossed, I don't think they've released when the next season's coming out. They haven't started filming it or anything like that. Fingers crossed, it's not a full 2 years. We're getting the Hedge Knight Game of Thrones series next year, another spin-off. But I hope maybe this is like end of next year, beginning of the following year.
This time, 2026, maybe early 2020, like leading into the.
If you're going that far,
that's 2 years.
But let's get into our main questions from this episode and not worry about the future right now. Is Alicent going to keep her word? Can she keep her word?
What is her word?
Her word is like, hey, you can show up at King's Landing. I'm gonna get, Aemond will be gone. Helena will be in charge. She'll bow down, and you can chop off Aegon's head. I'm cool with that. That's Alicent's plan. Little does Alicent know her son has run away with Varys.
No head to chop.
There will be no head to chop, and I think Rhaenyra is going to feel spurned by that.
Well,
be very pissed.
And even like I love the way it's shot because like I think we as the audience don't have a lot of faith. As Alicent walks out of that room, does she feel confident in that plan?
One more walk in the woods and she'll change her mind.
I think, and also the thing is, like, Alicent, you really think you can get away? Like, they're gonna stop you. Right. They're gonna come get you.
Alicent's gonna be like, Sir Rickard Thorne, have you ever seen the Mummer's Farce? And he's like, no, we gotta go.
He's like, God damn it, okay, I'm turning the phone.
Sir Thorne, have you ever gone to a place where they have fish that you can eat raw? He's like, sushi? You want to get sushi? Yes, I've never had it before. Can we do that?
Oh my God. My favorite part, it's not favorite, it's just stupid of her. When she was like, you can go there and win, or you can believe me a liar. And I was like, I don't believe you a liar, I believe you're gonna get caught. And we're all gonna get caught. I also believe you're not actually up to date on anything. It sounds like you got kicked off the council. It sounds like your dad's somewhere else.
Yeah,
like,
is it even these people's call to make?
No.
Right?
I think that's kind of Rhaenyra's point, right? Like, she's like, what are you gonna do about it, Alicent?
Are we to believe that what Daemon saw when he touched the tree is all true, right? So she will get on the throne with her crown. And this is how I'm seeing it. That we'll see her with the throne on the crown. So that means at one point, I don't know if she technically kills Aegon, but she does get on that seat. So does that mean that Aegon's gonna come back, or she? Because that's the thing. The small folk are probably like, "Oh, you sat on the throne. We're fine. Actually, we'd like you to come back." And she's like, "No, I still gotta behead this motherfucker."
That's right.
Like,
well, and it's like we know from the same vision, Aegon, Helena's end of it, Aegon becomes king again, but of course Daemon sees Rhaenyra as queen, right? Multiple crowns. Is this a William H. McKinley kind of situation where it's like, yeah, Rhaenyra is going to wear the crown for about 4 days, and then Aegon's going to wear the crown for about 5 days,
and then that's
like,
what I think that's important to note for people, especially because me watching it, I was like, there's a lot of prophecies. Keep track of every prophecy because they could entangle in a way that's like, well, this wouldn't work because that means that this person would die. And it's like, yeah, that person probably will die. It's like, that's how it's going to work.
Yeah. Rhaenyra seems pretty willing to, like, go to war at this point. She's ready. You know, she has her conviction. You know, she was saying when she was having dinner, she was like, with the dragon seed, she was like, oh, we got to go to Lannisport and Oldstown and, like, burn it down. And they were like, what? Excuse me, what? And this is the woman who didn't want to unleash the dragons. Yeah. But now they're out, and she's like, let's go. Well, do you think this conversation with Alicent, like, changes her mind at all? Or is she still pretty strong in her convictions?
I also love contrasting those two conversations you just cited with her conversation with Mysaria. Where Mysaria, who's always been the, like, advocate for the small folk, is like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Right? Like, Mysaria is kind of being the one, like, yeah, you're going to have to burn some small folk.
I'm not trying to be this person. What's a group of one small folk? You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
What's a group of one
small folk? And Rhaenyra makes that point of like, listen, small folk are currently dying, will continue to die. Aemon just torched a whole city of people, right? Like, we have to kill some small folk to prevent more small folk from dying, which is what all warmongers say all the time.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah.
I'm also like, it's like, what's 1 to 1,000,000? And then I'm that one, and I'm like, hey. Not my town.
So, go to the next what was Daemon's math as he was shouting to the River Lords? For every one of us that fall,
100 of them
die.
Which is funny because like the Triarchy wants 100 dragons, 100 coin per man.
Yeah,
I think
there's a lot of human math getting like trading this many people for this many. And
if we're gonna get into this later, feel free to be like, Jessica, we're gonna get into this later. Can we explain and break down the Triarchy?
The Triarchy is three
city-states.
Yeah, there's like different city-states off of the continent of Westeros.
Yeah.
Tyrosh, Lys, and Myr.
And they work together.
The three of them came together, and they were like, it's technically like each country gets like 30 men to represent them. When we saw that little meeting, there was 3 people talking that represent the 3, but technically everyone there is like a representative of their area.
Okay.
And they all band together because they're like, we were always fighting each other, but our real problem are the big dogs on Westeros.
If only every
place
place could do that.
But they still don't work together.
I think it's very coded, right? Like there's a lot of world history, like Tripoli, which is in Libya, North Africa, right? Like actually the first war I think that the U.S. Marines ever fought in. That's why, from the shores of Tripoli or whatever, was going there because it was like a pirate hub, in the Mediterranean that was like messing all these ships up. So for some reason we went.
And really, the pirate in our history, pirates only existed because like all the big countries like France and England were like, yeah, you guys can go be pirates.
Yeah, as long as you're
We'll
getting
give you
the
a
other
pirate
guys.
pass.
Which is kind of what the Lannisters are
Yeah.
doing right now, right? Like, yeah, do your pirate
Yeah.
thing as long as you're only punishing the other countries,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then who is so? This is long time thinking. So Admiral Lohar is a part of the Triarchy.
Yeah.
But is she a part of one
She's
team?
probably from one of the countries,
Yeah.
but her thing is like she's the admiral of this like
Of their
navy.
collective.
She's like the Corliss
Yeah.
for them.
I think she's from Tyrosh.
And presumably has maybe risen up the ranks since the crab feeder has been killed.
Sure. They used to follow Kragar, but
Does she have more people than Corliss does? Or is
that's
that
a-
what it's kind of saying?
I mean, it's intimidating.
They got a big navy,
when
but-
Homeboy says, like, with an armada like this, you can take the Iron Throne to
Yeah.
Thailand, like, which seems to say, like, I mean, these are two huge navies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was okay. That was the only confusion I had. Because when I saw the Triarchy, I was like, I assumed it's these 3 men, but there's also 400 people in this room.
Let's talk about Daemon's vision. Okay, this is pretty big, pretty surprising reveal here, and like what he sees. And it seems like Daemon now knows the whole plot of Game of Thrones, right? Daemon has a vision of the Song of Ice and Fire, but as I was watching it, I was like, this is very interesting because, especially with him meeting up again with Rhaenyra, because now they both have their conviction, their prophecies. But Rhaenyra's just told to her through Viserys. Daemon
off a
has
knife.
seen
Yeah.
things now, and I don't know what Rhaenyra knows compared to what Daemon knows. Because I don't know if Rhaenyra's prophecy that she was told from what we saw in the show, she might have had more conversations with Viserys that are off screen, right? But it was like, there's a prince that was promised, there's this threat from the north, and that prince that was promised from a united Targaryen force will be able to stop, winter, essentially. But like Daemon is seeing Daenerys, he is seeing the Red Comet, he's seeing these things happen, he's actually seeing the White Walkers. So he almost, in my mind, he has almost more conviction than Rhaenyra. He sees Rhaenyra on the throne. Rhaenyra's heard all these things, and there's some High Valyrian on a knife. But Daemon has like a vision. Like to him, it is real. It's something he's seen. And I wonder if that almost gives him more conviction than Rhaenyra, or if his aims will be more severe. Where if like Rhaenyra's like, hey, maybe we should back off. Let's not burn this city. Daemon will be like, no, we got to burn these cities now.
Yeah.
I think it will, but I also think it's a matter of like, first off, ladies, for man's not acting right, some to Alice Rivers. Secondly, and because of that, I'm like, oh, he just saw how small he is in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is very needed for a man with a huge ego.
It's a weight off of his shoulders.
Yeah,
too.
and that's why I
'Cause
think
he's always
fine.
flirting with like, I want to be the king, but not really.
No, I
and now
think
he
he
knows like,
needed it.
oh, I don't even need to
Well,
try.
and even right, like we now see kind of what Alice Rivers kind of, we don't know her entire plan, but we see like she's been microdosing him until
Sure.
he gets the mega dose from the
yeah.
tree, right? Till he has an open hand. He's not a closed fist. He's ready to receive the mega dose of tree sap.
He's
That's
OT7 in Scientology.
That's right.
And he's ready to cross the
He's
bridge.
ready. He's had enough.
He has
Thetans.
learned about Xenu now.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I also love it. He just sees like his weird little short film. Nobody's there. He doesn't have an Eric Voss breaking it down for him.
No.
He's just interpreting these images. Also, again, doesn't look great for him. Walking through a bunch of dead bodies, falling into water. Somehow he's interpreting that.
Yeah, is a good thing. I also like that it was like he saw Daenerys and the 3 dragons and was like, we're prospering. And it's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, that was
doesn't
right
he
after he
see-
saw some dead dragons.
He saw dead dragons.
Okay,
right?
I was
dead
like,
Cyrax,
I was
for
like,
sure.
you guys are not going to be good in the future. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah.
You guys in the future.
But it's also maybe, I think it's like a relief for him. Where he's
No,
like, well,
100
I'm just a player in the story.
yes. And that's why
Helena
I
told
agree.
me it's all a story.
And I agree. I think the only 2 things that will come from this are, 1, he's gonna go like, I'll just whatever you guys want, just point me and I'll bring this army.
Yeah.
But also 2, I don't know if he trusts Helena, and he's like, I already got Alice and I spent time with Alice.
Well,
I kind of see and believe her.
Yeah.
You are the enemy, and you
Again-
want me to come in there?
Totally different from the book, these abilities Helena has. I'm wondering now, would Daemon want to capture Helena and be
Yeah.
like, we need to keep Helena alive. We need to take
Yeah,
Helena.
He loves
other
witches.
than
Helena knows a lot.
Other than Rhaenyra, the only other identifiable Targaryen, and Brendan Rivers, who he doesn't know who the hell that is
Right.
yet, because he hasn't been born yet, right? Like, was Helena, right? Yeah, that's really.
Because I
interesting.
think that adds a whole new wrinkle. And again, you were hinting at it, Zach. Alice Rivers, if she's like a wood witch, old school, like Westerosi magic, old, the Children of the Forest type stuff. And then Helena's powers coming from like blood magic and old Valyria, but working towards the same goal. What is this old magic that wants these events to happen and is pushing these players towards it?
Don't you think the Wood Witch might want all dragons dead?
Well, they're playing the long game, right?
That's not a magic that is of this continent. I don't like these dragons being here. They're going to burn down my special trees and my weird antler heads. Right? Like, I need this war to happen so that all these dragons kill each other, right? Yeah.
Very interesting. Where's our boy Otto, huh?
Wow.
Otto's in a cell.
What a reveal.
No one's been able to talk to him. They sent Larys, Aemon sent Larys to go look for him.
That's right. You fetch my grandfather.
Yeah.
I will say one thing, which I don't know time in this show. I'll say that first and foremost. It feels like 3 weeks, and then it's only been like 4 days. He does look the same. The beard is not longer or
not
shorter.
too shaggy,
Yeah, it looks like he's still there. He's just a little musty, a little dirt.
Yeah.
I think again another Eric Voss breakdown will show that he's wearing the same clothes maybe that when he left that day, and that will show.
I gotta even check his clothes.
But there's also I don't know why they would. He could have made it to where his son is, and they were like, "Ew, outsider!" Like,
he made it back to Old Town.
Maybe.
Yeah,
there's a million places.
I feel like the options are right. Like either Larys or somebody else, as he was leaving King's Landing, captured him, and he's been sitting in a crate for however long.
Right.
Or he got to
Old Town.
Old Town, right? They have this conflict with the Beesberries and Otto's brother. Maybe in one of those battles he was captured. The Beesberries got him in some castle we don't even know what the hell it is. B-Town or Honeypot? What's the name of their Honeyholt, right?
Like adorable little castle.
I'm gonna guess not that, because that's kind of dramatic and it feels like somebody would have mentioned that offhand in the show. Or Larys did go look for him, did find him, was like, yeah, come on back. And then on the way back, Larys is like, yeah, you're not on my team. I'm going to squirrel you away somewhere.
I just feel like he's wanted by everyone, and it was such a dumb move to be like, I'm leaving. I'm going to Old Town. And I hope you were escorted. It feels like, which I don't see often, them escort the men out. They always escort the women. All women always have to be accompanied by like some guard. It seems like he probably just tried to leave on his own out of fucking Westeros, which...
Maybe, it's all very mysterious. Again, this is uncharted territory from the book. In the book, after he is demoted, he loses the position of the Hand of the King. He just kind of sticks around Old Town. He sticks around the Red Keep in King's Landing. In the books, he's also the one that brokers the deal with the Triarchy.
Interesting.
He was the one that put that together. So they've changed a lot of things here.
They really upgraded Tyland's role. Man, this was some heavy Tyland this episode.
I don't think anyone from the Blacks small council has captured
but
Otto, because I think it would have been brought up before. Now, if somehow like Daemon had finagled this,
or it could be somebody that supports the Blacks but is low-key supporting the Blacks.
Because you have the gold cloaks. Half of the gold cloaks are pretty much on the side of the Blacks.
What if he's just like held in one of the pillow houses of the women that like straight up?
Like
he's
they have a prison in there.
Locked up?
No.
He's like, Sylvie, come unlock my cage up in the bathroom.
Is that a Massaria card
That's
yet
what
to
I'm saying.
play?
That's what I'm saying. I think probably
She hasn't even told Rhaenyra about that because she's like, I'm waiting to play this card. You know?
And also, I think that's a good play because it's like, would Rhaenyra enjoy this? Daemon would. I think Rhaenyra would be like, what is Otto gonna physically do to us?
Could it be someone from like the Riverlands who's captured?
Right? She said her goal this season, she wants to make the High Tower.
Yeah, she hates it.
So she would probably want to get
I wasn't joking when I said a pillow, because there's a million places that they were banging that also were dirty, dingy basements that were like
Otto specifically burned her stuff down, right? Like in season 1, he was the one that
I didn't
came
think
to
about
her,
Massaria.
right?
So, I think it's either Larys or Massaria, but I like Massaria doing it. Ooh, that's tricky. I do think, like, maybe he was going to roll out with some gold cloaks and, like, a couple of them betrayed. Yeah. Because it seems like no one thinks he's missing, but because they had a comment of, like, oh, we haven't heard from him. But no one seems that concerned. It's not like they raised alarm. They were just like, oh, he's being Otto.
They've got other stuff going on.
Also, again, Otto, you dumb idiot. You are old and disheveled. Do not try to leave without an escort.
Is it possible that Aemon is behind this? After Aemon dismissed him, do you think Aemon was like, lock his ass up?
I think Aemon does not care enough to lock him up.
Aegon dismissed him.
Oh.
Yeah. Aemon wanted him back. Maybe Aegon is behind it, though it feels like he's not pulling 3D chess.
It would be Larys or...
Aegon did it and didn't tell anybody, and now he's forgotten because
he was drunk, then he gets in an accident.
He did it when he was drunk.
Nobody remembers.
He said, "Oh shit, sorry, Gramps."
Okay,
bad.
as we have every after show this season, we're going to do a final Blur power rankings comparing the two houses, BLUR, Blood. This is a pretty bloodless finale. Not the big battles some of us were predicting. Though
Admiral Lohar had a little blood.
There was
some
the tree.
The
some
tree
mud
had
fighting.
some blood.
The tree was bleeding, and that whole city got torched.
Well, hear me out. How
Sharp
many
point, sharp
birds
point.
did Ulf put back? How many birds?
That's true. That's true. Though I do think Eamon roasting Sharp Point probably wins here, so that goes to green.
And Aegon talking about his penis exploding.
Yeah, I guess another in the... Well, that kind of transitions to L, Lust.
Not
really,
that.
the closest we got to Lust was Tywin Lannister now
Sir
having
Kristen
to...
Cole.
Sir Kristen Cole, like...
He loves her. He was sniffing her napkin. That's the definition of lust.
Blue balling out in the woods. I
That
guess.
is the definition of lust. Lust is wanting and longing.
Okay, fair. And also Tywin Lannister is going to have to bed down with a bunch of pirate wives.
I did like when Gwaine was like gonna maybe stab Kristen Cole, and all the dudes in the back were like, "Do we do anything about this? What's going on?" And then it just kind of wraps up, and they're
Sir
like,
Kristen
"Well,
Cole is one of the
like-
best fighters, and Gwaine is Gwaine. I'm not stepping in between that. Gwaine's a punk bitch. I don't care.
Yeah.
Poor Cole's in his feelings, man. He's got PTSD from watching half of his army get burnt up. All the women in his life treat him like garbage because he deserves it.
Also, low key, that scene was shot. Most of Cole's lines were shot like up. He's like bending down, but they're shot from the point of view of Alicent's hanky.
Her favorite.
Right, is where the camera's at. Also, kind of dick camera.
Does he?
You know what I mean? It's
Stop
basically coming up
The
from
sausage cam.
This is why Eric writes the breakdowns and not Zach. Zach's like, now look at the dick angle. Wait, does Alicent like him back?
I think.
tough to tell.
Yeah,
Because even
I mean,
here she was just like, I was lonely after your dad
Well,
left.
and I love when she's
could have
talking.
she could have burned him to Rhaenyra, but
Yes.
she didn't.
Well, she didn't
was
say
like, I was
who.
lonely, and I was.
But she didn't name names.
Yeah. No.
She didn't say who she's been betting
That's
down.
why
I
I'm like,
know.
I don't think she actually loves him. I think she's just like, I want to have sex, which is fine. Go at it, girl.
Yeah.
But he is like, my poor man. He's down bad for every
bad.
woman,
He's down bad.
including me.
The Unity rankings. Now, this is actually tight because like everybody's building up their forces, right? The Greens are pulling in the Triarchy pirates. The Blacks have finally, Rhaenyra and Daemon are combining their forces, right? Like there's a
Right.
lot of unity there. Maybe if anything, you might.
I think there's way more unity on the Blacks. The Greens are still a little fractured. You got Alicent running around doing side deals,
selling out her son.
Helena's walkie-talkieing with the enemy.
Aemon's like grabbing her by the wrist, trying to
Aemon's
get
burning
her
cities
sister.
willy-nilly.
I think that's fair. They did have a big W by getting the Triarchy on board and this
rebellion.
extra brother swooping in at the very end, but probably got to lean.
Darren
Blacks.
doesn't even know his siblings. He's not gonna. He's gonna think
Plus, he's
Aemon's
a
a
good guy.
weirdo.
He's a ladies' man. And then finally, repartee. Who had the best lines? I mean, they're not in classical. Both Alicent and Rhaenyra are slinging
Pretty
great lines.
tight.
in
There's
that.
some good
but
lines in
I
there.
will say, I mean, we keep coming back to it. Aegon,
dude.
burst sausage,
What?
like a sausage in the fire.
It was so like you could easily imagine it. It was disgustingly very on point. So that's the only reason I like when he said like I immediately imagine you're camping. You throw a sausage into the fire and I'm like, yeah, it explodes.
Simon Strong was pretty great too. When Rhaenyra showed up, and she was like, he was like, oh, I didn't think you were gonna come. So sorry.
Please.
So sorry. Also, check it out. Things are great now.
He's gonna go back with them and be the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, hand.
I love too. He says like I'm the Castellan here.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what that word means, but just in context, I'm like, oh yeah, you're the guy in charge of the castle.
He's the
That's
castle.
kinda
Governor
clever.
of a castle.
Yeah.
What?
That's what it means. The governor of a castle.
Oh,
Yeah, I
he's
dig it.
not doing a good job of it. Every person keeps coming in.
He's holding it down.
It's
pretty
on
well.
fire, and a million people now live in it. When the dragon
It's
came
getting
up,
the
it was
most work it's ever done.
The dragon literally was in the building still. Like
Yeah.
even when it perched on top of it, I was
That
like,
was a
"That's
slick
how
move,
broke."
too.
It made me realize how broken Harrenhal actually is.
Also, I love the dragon perching on there and them still not kneeling for Rhaenyra because
Yeah.
they're like, we don't know, and not even
Yes,
a dragon.
we don't know.
We
Who
fully
could
know
literally
this is.
roast us all right now?
Oh, Riverland, they were like, "We don't give a fuck."
Shout out to what's Rhaenyra's dragon again?
Cyrax.
Cyrax, ultimate wingman move right there.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I'm gonna be back here if you need
He
me.
was like,
You know what I
"Mom, you
mean?
left me down there, and I couldn't see you anymore, so I came to this hole in the
Also,
ceiling."
badass.
what was that Damon was saying about dead dragons? Real quick, can we back up to that point? Damon, you mind mentioning that?
I also will say I did love the Sir Kristen Cole line of like men are corrupt and it's all in the
What is
mist.
honor? Does it disappear like mist in the
Mist.
morning?
I said, ooh,
getting poetic.
I got mad and I said last week, I was like, I'm tired of y'all motherfuckers speaking in riddles. It's very annoying and distracting, but I knew exactly what that riddle meant.
I think Team Black
with the
ends this season way up.
Yeah.
They don't know the problems that are facing them necessarily. They don't know about the Triarchy.
Yeah.
That's gonna take them by surprise.
If we're choosing,
But I mean, they have so many dragons. They're united. They got the River Lords. They're up right now.
Okay.
They got Unity and all
got
all
magic
those
on their
birds.
side. Yeah.
I mean,
They're at the strongest point they've been this season,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Let's hit some live chat questions since we're doing this
Let's do
live on Twitch and YouTube. Before Meet Normus has sent in a super chat saying Miracle Max loves mutton, lettuce, and tomato. I think in reference to all the mutton and before mutton talk.
I love
about
mutton.
Yeah, mutton's delicious. Don't listen to Zach. If
No,
you're a
it's
sheep
not.
farmer, people
I love
appreciate mutton.
mutton.
Brett Scott asking, do you think the Blood Raven from the Vision will end up being in the actual cast in the Dunk and Egg show?
Ooh. So
What
this
is
would be
it? How
like
do the timelines-
Brendan Rivers. Brendan Rivers is like the bastard son of Aegon the Fourth.
And is that Max von Sydow that we saw in Game of Thrones? Was he supposed to be Brendan Rivers?
Yeah. So like in Game of Thrones,
He lives like 500 years. or
Yeah,
something,
the
right?
three-eyed raven is played by two different actors at different points in the show. The latest one being Max von Sydow, who's the one that kind of trains Bran up to be like a seer. I don't know. I mean, I would think the work they're doing here means we might see Brendan Rivers in the Duncan and Egg show.
I think Brett
It's like a
Scott-
weird passing reference.
Yeah, Brett Scott was saying in the chat a few times about how like the timelines could.
Yeah,
What-
it seems like they really want to tie up these things and make it all
Everything.
cohesive.
What time period does the Hedge Knight take place during?
Just 100 years before Game of Thrones, I think.
Yeah,
so
it's
much
in the-
later than this series.
Yeah, it's in like the 180s AC or whatever after Conquest, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, KH on YouTube saying that we forgot the wigs this episode for the finale. We forgot.
They weren't
our
that
wigs.
The only part of the wig that like got me was I was like, oh, I didn't really notice because we don't see her that often. How the one that was chasing the wild dragon, her hair is curly and her sister has dreads.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I didn't
a good
notice
point.
that because the dread ones, no offense, looked like a mop on top of her head, and they were not done well. Like the back, I think we finally got to see the back, and I did not like them one bit.
Jessica, I think they wanted our wigs on.
You're talking about, yeah.
But I agree, the wig work on the show is very good.
I really
90%
like
of the time.
Aegon's like half burnt up wig.
Yeah, it was
looking
great.
nice.
Rachel!
They were so happy to do that. They were like, ooh, can't wait to make him look like a little freak.
Yeah, his little ear hole.
Watch and Rant, thank you for resubbing. They had also asked like how Helena's related to Daemon's vision. We kind of got into it, but for the final time, do you think that they're having the vision at the same time, or is
Yeah.
she just tapping into something?
I think she's tapping in, and I'm surprised Alice is not pissed yet. And I feel like Alice
Yeah,
also,
magic, a little
yeah,
magic.
because Alice is like, hey,
Hey, this is my man.
Because I feel like, well, I think it's very interesting. I think Helena would have tapped in sooner if it was not approachable, but if it was accessible for her to do so. I think it's because of holding onto the God tree or whatever is what made it like like an EMP. It went out.
The power
and,
was
yeah, it went
stronger.
out.
And
I
maybe
think
the, like,
Alice. Yeah.
The Targaryen on Targaryen, there's a little bit of that
Yes.
energy
Yeah, yeah.
pulling her
Oh
in
yeah, because
too.
it could be like, oh, hint, any bloodline, come connect. Because I think Alice has enough work done in her magic, and she's mysteriously so old that maybe she's practiced enough that she's like, I have a bubble around mine. No one
Yeah.
can tap into when we're locked in.
I think it's like the group chat was blowing up, so Helena, you know what I mean?
I like
Let me
it
get
too
into
because in the vision, right? If Brendan Rivers is like the last green seer that is in Westeros, and Helena is a green seer, I think that connection there of like the chain of green seers.
Could it also be that maybe, which could go with if Daemon kidnaps her or something, Daemon was able to lock into her, not her lock into that? Could
Oh,
have
like
been
he
something like
pulls her
he's
in or
reaching
something?
out to talk to
Yeah.
anybody and he finds her and is able to. Because I keep, I mean, I don't think it's wrong for us to keep believing that, like, oh yeah, she tapped in. But I'm like, what if he went for her?
Yeah.
He
It was
like,
interesting
hey.
too, like where we saw Helena was kind of like Stranger Things upside down season 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
It was
like
a new spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where it was, like, because she's in King's Landing still. She's looking over, or she's in the Red Keep. She's looking over King's Landing. In the book, she kind of lives in like this area called Maegor's Holdfast. I don't know if that was like her balcony or she just kind of looked like a normal tower that she kind of walked up to. It was looking over the battlements. But yeah, I hadn't really considered that maybe she jacked into a vision she wasn't supposed to be in initially. She could sense it out there. And yeah, if that causes Alice Rivers to be like, hey, whoa, I don't want you to mess
I'm sure
around.
time transpired weird. He could have been plugged into that tree for like 3 hours.
Yeah, we don't
Oh,
know.
that's true. Just like standing
Yeah.
there. I like that. Also, as siblings, because they're in a world where like their siblings can have sex with each other, they act like adults to one another. Whereas I'd be like, Jeremy, get off me! I'd be like, let go of my hand! I'd be like, Jeremy, don't touch me! I hate you!
Touch me, you freak.
I'd be like, oh, I'm not riding a dragon. They're dirty.
Just because we're running long on time, I'll just ask some more questions and we'll probably wrap up here. Pac-Man asking, can we guess what Aegon's penis sounded like when it exploded?
I think it was like a.
Oh yeah, it was. It was. And it like just like eked out down his leg. And then the only thing that survived was the foreskin. It shot off the other direction.
It's just, I picture it's just like a loose urethra.
Oh yeah, it's just
Do you
like
think he still has the
dangles.
balls and sack?
No,
Or
the
is that
balls are
gone too?
the balls
They're
are the
gone.
first thing to
Balls are the
go.
first thing
The balls
to
were
get
the first thing
burnt
that
out.
went
Let's
away.
be honest.
They have the same like feeling of your eyelids. Like that's the thinnest material. It ripped immediately.
That's pure toe. That's chestnut right there.
That's chestnuts.
Okay,
And I love that that was the one thing he was sad about losing. Like
Yeah.
it was, there's a lot of things. My dude, like you barely can see. You're having a hard time walking. You need to get up. You need to live. He's like, my dick is gone.
yeah.
I mean, he
I
wants to
cannot-
be the realm's
What's
delight.
the
Fuck
point?
again.
What's
The
the point?
realm's delight.
Which that's very funny because in the book that's what they call Rhaenyra is the realm's delight. I think they called it on the show too, like in season
passing,
1.
yeah.
So he kind of says it like the realm's delight. It's like no, that name's taken, dude.
All right, and then one final question here before we get into some Zach Bandage stuff.
The
Ryan
reveal.
Painter asking for the final time, how fleshy was this season?
Ooh, I found this season to be very fleshy. Again, we were watching this show kind of in tandem with The Boys and Acolyte, and this show, the action, the dialogue, the acting, it was just on point all around the whole time. Both the Boys and Acolyte had high points for me and like fun things that I enjoyed. But man, this season of House of the Dragon really kept me in, and I really enjoyed it. And I found it very fleshy.
We have different interpretations on fleshy, and I was like, we hung dong. And then we also saw, we didn't see it, but we heard about one dong exploding. So I think very fleshy.
Very
That's,
fleshy.
yes,
Very
both
fleshy.
meanings of fleshy get fulfilled there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like, again, I had some issues with the way the season ended, but like I loved this season. And I thought, to me, it was an improvement over the first season, only in the sense of like they introduced a lot of characters, they laid a lot of ground, and then I feel like they've fleshed out a lot of characters. I mean, think
Sure.
of like the Simon Strongs, the Snuffleupagus Tully, the like all these characters, right? That all had their little moments. Adam and Aaron,
Yeah.
and like all that, right? Like they had the time and the patience to develop a lot of
Yeah.
these characters in ways that shows don't usually get to. So I thought very fleshy.
The show is so outstanding. Like they have 400 characters, and somehow they do a good job of giving them each like good scripts.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I just, you even mentioned Tully. I'm like, we saw so many characters that I was not expecting to like even get a line from, and I'm like, oh, here's the entirety of the Riverlands, and they all get to scream
Yes.
one episode and the next.
And so many people that like when they show up on screen, you're like, yay! Like
Yeah.
Alice Rivers or Sir Strong
Strong.
or whatever. You're like, yeah, cool, right? Yeah.
Before we head out, Zach, do you want to do your big reveal?
Yes.
Yes, so there's guesses in the chat. There's a lot of guesses. I'm going to try to ask in categories.
Okay.
Is it burn related?
It is not burn.
Food related?
Yeah, I guess yes, it is.
Okay.
okay.
Is it related to the Olympics in any way?
No, I wish.
Okay. Let's do some food related things.
Is it David Byrne related?
Gotham Knight asking, was it taking pizza out of the oven?
Ooh.
Oh, well,
that's
that'd
a
be
good
more
one.
burn related, but no, I've definitely burned myself up doing that.
Was this
before.
a cooking injury?
It was not cooking.
Okay.
No, it is tangential.
I also
to
like
food.
this one from YouTube, Zachary Allen Lean asking, Zach, are you a falconer?
Ooh.
Can I ask a
Damn.
question?
Wouldn't that be badass?
Did you I've done this before and it's very embarrassing. Have you ever, did you cut your wrist digging really fast into a box of Cheez-Its?
Like on the cardboard box?
Yeah, I've done that
Or
before.
the Cheez-Its can be sharp
Or
sometimes.
the
no,
Cheez-Its.
I wish.
Was it digging into like a box?
No, but it's not too far off from that. I'll go ahead and reveal. Okay, so I've never liked this, but my wife likes glasses, like drinking
boy.
glasses made of glass.
Oh, boy.
I've always been like plastic, I'm trash,
Yeah,
I don't care. But like, so I'm emptying the dishwasher. I have a glass in my hand.
She starts mouthing off.
Somehow in the dishwasher, right? Maybe there was some kind of micro cracks, something like
Okay.
that. It's kind of like a flimsy little glass. I go to put it into our cabinet where we keep our glasses. In my hand, before it gets to the cabinet, it shatters. A piece of this glass jabs
Stop.
into my wrist right here. I needed 10 stitches.
No.
Ooh, 10.
Blood gushing down. Luckily, no tendons and no arteries were nicked. But like wild, just 10 a.m. on a Sunday. I'm literally doing the dishes.
You're so boring. That is the most boring way to get injured.
He's so strong.
I wish it would have been like, oh, a dog ripped me apart.
Were you working on?
I opened a car door and got hit.
Were you working on your falsetto when it happened?
Zach,
I
that is
wish.
So, I'm
I wish.
sad about
I know.
the
That's why I
injury.
wanted the chat to guess because all their guesses were going to be way better than the reality.
You know, I
Right.
get more mad when I get injured doing something like the Cheez-It box. The one time I ever broke my screen was when I was sitting on the toilet and it fell out of my hands. And I was like, out of every time I drop my phone, that's the way it does
That's the one. Well, that's it for us today. That's it for us this season. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel right here on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch where we do videos like this live. Make sure you follow them at BreakroomNR on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Twitch, all over the place. We got lots more content coming on the Breakroom this week, so be sure to check it out. We'll catch you next time. Late SKS, goodbye.
More of the little bird.
How's everyone feeling about the episode? I feel like the internet was a little upset.
Maybe it's because I watched it 2 hours ago. That's why I'm really tired. But I didn't mind it. At first, from what I heard, I was like, "Does anyone die?" And you were like, "No." And then like everything I was hearing from the internet, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be so mad." And then I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not mad. Now I get it." The only thing that I think we're all very mad about is that we have to wait 2 years for the next one.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is a shitty way to set up something I don't get to see for another 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's where all of our anger comes from. Because it makes sense. It was completely like, as soon as that next episode starts,
Right.
one of the dragons is going to be shooting off. Like you're going to see them in the distance.
I think they set themselves up because we were talking in the preview for this episode that they showed the previous week. It showed a lot of that ending montage, and it made it feel like, oh, all this will happen within the episode, and then that was at the very end, and you're like, well, great.
They got
Yes.
us. They did it to us.
Yeah, and I think, our 2030 rewatch of the entire series.
Yeah, it'll
This
fly
will
by.
be great, and this will probably flow right into season 3. But it is, to me, it was less fulfilling because, like, it felt like, especially after the promise of the end of the last episode, and we kind of see the dragon seeds, and we see that great shot of Rhaenyra on Dragonstone with her 3 dragons behind her, and Vhagar turning around. It's like, yeah, we need a dragon fight in this finale.
Yeah.
And we don't get a dragon fight in the finale.
It did remind me of like watching Game of Thrones in real time, where like it did feel like sometimes the season finales would feel like, oh, we're almost there. Oh, we gotta wait. We gotta wait.
I think people also forget that a majority of people that watch Game of Thrones now watched it all after it came out.
Right,
Like
a
a
lot
lot
of
of people
binged
did
it,
it during the
yeah.
pandemic too. So I was like, oh, it's easy to watch 8 seasons in a bundle where you're like, after the Red Wedding, you're like, oh, I can just go start the next season.
Yeah.
But this, we have to wait 2 years.
Yes.
So living in it, I think, makes us very angry, which I understand, and I get that. But I was like, oh, I love these chess pieces moving.
Yeah.
It is a lot of people and a lot of characters to have to check in with, but I was like, oh, this is great. The only part that pissed me off was that poor girl looking for the wild dragon. Every scene she had was 2
my
seconds.
God.
2 seconds.
I
I said, just get her to the dragon.
Yes.
I did not know when she got to that little river stream, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, so it's been days. I was like, she's been walking forever. I was like, I didn't even get that.
And,
Like,
and it would be one thing if like her character was being developed in those little
No,
scenes.
no, it's not.
If stuff was happening,
Yeah.
every scene is just
drinking that water, and then she
Sleeping-
goes back
sleeping in the-
sprinting in that long gown. I'm like,
Her shoes are breaking. Her poor shoes are
I
breaking.
know. Also, her fucking party that she was with.
just
Have they noticed that she's missing?
To be fair, which is really bad, I think the easy justification was they were like, we're not gonna run after her. The 2 queen babies are
yeah.
here. Like that one doesn't really matter to us. She just dipped. She just did. But I also think when she catches, which I assume she catches the dragon, I think they'll be very glad for her, or not. They'll be like, we owe you one because that wild thing was killing all our sheep.
Thanks for getting sheep stealer. Huh?
I think the veil will be like, we owe that. Renee, we're not here for you. We're here for her. She got rid of that wild dragon.
I also like the wild dragon looked a little raggedy.
It was so good.
was
Like
a
it
good
looked like a
design.
wit, like a bat. Like its
It was kind of
wings were really
speckled,
stringy.
right? Yeah, and it kind of had like
Got splotchy,
blotchy
like pink
coloring.
splotchy.
I like that they make it look different than these like highborn dragons, kind of. You
that's
know,
a good. That's a good attention to detail because they are like the black cats that have been living in the streets for like years.
I know how to fly all on my
They're
own.
like, get away from my food. Because it did like hiss at her when it was eating. It was
Yeah.
like, hey, get out of here.
Evan, do we have some shout outs?
Yeah, we got a bunch of shout outs this morning. A lot of people resubbing. Start of the month.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you all so much. Latin Blue, thank you for the 7 month. Kobe1 Kenobi is always with the 5 gift subs. And congrats, Kobe, for starting a new job.
Oh, congrats.
Is your face closer to the camera?
A little bit. Christian Unpronounceable, thank you for the 5 gift subs. I know, I think are you skipping a golf tourney for this? Regardless, hey, thanks for being here.
Hey.
One of those Monday morning golf tournaments?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's possible.
J-Dog XXY, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Yo, Where's the Beef? Thank you for resubbing. Lid Ritz, thank you for resubbing. And lots of people dropping the balls emote because they know balls is knocking at that door.
Oh yeah, balls is knocking at the door. Kobe, if you're starting a new job, I hope you're not watching during your new job.
I know, yeah.
Bad way to start the job.
Watch on VOD, Kobe, if you're at work right now. Maybe it's a remote, fully flexible type of gig. Okay, and again, throw your predictions in the chat for why I have a bandage on my wrist.
Or your questions, your lingering thoughts, as we go through the
More
episode,
importantly.
we'll try and get to them. And yeah, what happened to Zach's wrist?
And importantly, what the hell is Otto Hightower doing in that cage? I need to know.
Who put him in a cage?
Who put him in that
That man
cage?
said the day I stepped off of, he just immediately got put into
Yeah,
jail.
yeah.
He immediately got put into jail. He was like, I made a mistake. I should have stayed at the
Any
tower.
day now, they'll come looking for me.
And he's looking over his, I thought it was going to reveal who put him in the
Who it was?
cage. He was just like,
Yeah.
I'm decrepit. I'm Otto. You love Otto too much, Zach.
Love it.
He's
I
weak as
love
hell.
Otto.
Couldn't even get himself out of jail.
I know.
Trifling.
Fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of good guesses so far. So I'm
Okay.
excited to read some guesses
Okay.
for the bandage.
Great.
What if Otto put
Give
himself
us
in prison?
1 second. Sorry, just vamp for one more minute.
Oh boy,
What if
1
Otto,
minute of vamping.
What if Otto put himself in prison? And
Oh,
it's
it's all a
it's
trick?
one of those things that you never guess my next move kind of thing.
Kinda like,
Miss me?
you run away from home as a kid to make them
Yeah.
miss you.
You close yourself in an abandoned fridge?
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's so cool. A piece of me was like, oh, maybe you'll learn now to tell people where you're going. You should not
Yeah.
leave by. But then,
Yeah.
but then they can come trap you. If
that's
you let
true.
too many people know, they come find him. But if he told, so it's like a double-edged sword. You don't know who to trust.
Also, the
He took good to the point.
security in and out of King's Landing, is it the most overrated security?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
friggin'
This naval blockade that did not
Hey,
stop.
the naval
Alicent.
blockade that they got fish and chips going right and left. Laris and the king of the realm just piecing out in a windowless cart. You know what I mean?
They were in a raven car, which I thought was very fun. Like it was
Is
a
that
bunch
what
of
that
ravens.
was?
Yeah, there was a bunch of ravens in there. It was like a mail
I
truck.
also
essentially.
think,
That's a
to
good
be
point.
fair, once
Okay.
you see the king, you're probably like, I'm not getting involved. Also,
Also, you're like, that's not the kid.
that's not,
Yeah. This melted
Oh my
face
God.
guy?
This Kentucky Fried piece of chicken right here.
we'll get into it again. But when he was straight up like, my cock burst like a sausage.
Damn. And he kept going.
He kept going. No, Larry said, I don't want to hear anymore. He said, I piss. Just ripples down my
Like
leg.
a sausage in the fire.
That better be Tom's Emmy application right there.
Damn.
That's
He
so good.
kept going.
Dude, my favorite part was
Graphic.
when Laris walks in immediately and he's like, my king, you're not going to hear this, but we're going to have to get out of here. Things going down. We're going to have to seek you out of King's Landing. He sits there for a second and he goes, what? Line delivery of the season. Just a what?
Dude,
He was dealing with
that
other bigger problems himself.
that actor, since they put all the prosthetics
Yeah,
on him,
he's eating it.
I mean, the whole cast top to bottom's great, but it's like somehow that actor has gone up a level since he's been all disfigured and
So
everything
good.
like that.
He's-
Wild.
That line was so. He was
What?
just the fact that Larry was trying to change the subject. He was like, no, you're not listening.
It's got my
You're not
mind.
listening. I fucking
Also,
hate myself.
we gotta go live with the goat fuckers
Yeah,
of
the goat
Essos.
fuckers.
Damn.
That was
when the
really
pirates just
good.
told us Essos is popping, okay? Essos is nice.
Well, are they also having sex with sheep? The pirates.
Well, probably.
We'll
probably.
see.